Right now at noon, police in Fayetteville are searching for a suspect that they say robbed a gas station. It's happened around 4 in the morning at the Easy Mart on the corner of West Poplar and North Leverett. Police say they found discarded clothing outside of the store and in that area. And police are urging the public to be cautious and contact them if you see the suspect.
The suspect was identified as a white male, or described as a white male, wearing a dark colored hooded jacket, a t-shirt or some other clothing item over his face, and wearing socks on his hands. The individual asked for money from the register and then fled with an undisclosed amount of money.
Nobody was injured in this incident, but we will bring you the latest here on 5 News and on our website, 5newsonline.com, as we learn more. Well, continuing coverage on a case out of Crawford County, Randall Worcester appeared in court yesterday. Prosecutors say he was involved in an altercation with 2 former deputies in Mulberry back in 2022. Both of those former deputies pled guilty to depriving Worcester of his civil rights during the arrest, and they're now serving prison sentences.
Randall is glad to see justice be performed with the federal courts, with the investigation and the prosecution of police officers who step over the line.
Worcester himself is also charged in the altercation, facing several charges including terroristic threatening and resisting arrest. In court this week, he was given his jury trial date, June 23rd. Worcester's attorney is also waiting to receive the report for a competency exam done back in February to ensure he's fit to stand trial. The judge also said if a plea agreement can be worked out, the trial date will be replaced with a plea hearing. And a former Benton County deputy has been sentenced after pleading guilty to stalking a coworker. Matthew Klein was arrested and charged with sexual assault in 2023 after inappropriate behavior was reported to the sheriff's office. They say Klein was fired less than 4 hours after the report. According to a probable cause affidavit, the assault was captured by a surveillance camera. After pleading guilty, Klein was sentenced to 120 days in jail, followed by 5 years of probation. And a car crashed through a daycare in Centerton, sending 1 child to the hospital with injuries. This happened at Little Martians Learning Center just a little before 3 o'clock on Wednesday. Police say a female driver drove her car into a classroom. That child remains in stable condition, and the Benton County Sheriff's Reconstruction Team and Centerton Police work to determine the cause of that crash.
It looks like it was possibly a parent or guardian of a child that goes to the Learning Center. I don't know for sure if weather was a factor in the accident.
Little Martian says the center will be closed for the rest of this week. They also say that they are going to offer counseling services in the coming days. Well, a new scam targeting casino goers is spreading quickly on social media. It's becoming a growing concern for casino owners. The CFO of Saracen Casino Resort says in their most recent report, they've taken down more than 300 different ad sites, all falsely advertising their brand. He says scammers are trying to use the casino's identity to trick people into turning over their information and credit card numbers. This is happening in other places too.
We have seen casinos from the Gulf Coast of Mississippi, the MGM down in Biloxi, all the way to Canada targeted by these scamsters.
He says the Arkansas Attorney General's office, along with the Arkansas Racing Commission, is actively working to address the issue. If you come across any false ads, you're urged to report them immediately. And the man handpicked by Governor Sanders for Secretary of State is planning his next move. Cole Jester has announced plans to run for state land commissioner. In a social media post, he vowed to further the state's energy economy and challenge foreign influence on the state. That election will be next year, and if Jester wins, he would go from roles overseeing elections and business licensing to managing the state's waterways and overseeing mineral rights. Well, the U.S. Supreme Court heard arguments in an Oklahoma case involving the separation of church and state. The justices are weighing whether to allow what would be the nation's first publicly funded religious charter school. Jan Crawford reports from the latest at the Supreme Court.
When an Oklahoma school board approved the nation's first Catholic charter school, lawsuits came faster than the school could open its virtual doors.
It's the state creating a religious school.
State Attorney General Gentner Drummond argues the school, to be paid for with taxpayer dollars, violates the Constitution's ban on government establishment of religion.
Now, we're okay in Oklahoma and in many states with state money going to the parent as a tax credit, and then the parent chooses the religious school of their choice.
But supporters like Kristen Wagoner of the Alliance Defending Freedom say if the state allows private groups to create charter schools, it can't exclude religion.
There are charter schools in Oklahoma that focus on Native American culture, that focus on performing arts, that focus on nature as examples. And simply refusing to allow religious schools to participate in that, that's not neutral.
It's actually discriminating against religion in your view.
To suggest that a government official can say, we're going to categorically bar the door to people of faith, that is wrong. It's unconstitutional.
Approved in 2023, the school says it would fully embrace Catholic teachings, which is why the Oklahoma Supreme Court struck down the funding, saying public schools must remain non-religious. Drummond says it's a slippery slope.
Right now, we're talking about a Christian-based school. But if you open it up to the Christian-based school, you open it up to everything.
Such as?
A satanic school.
Satanic
Wiccan school. You open it up to all.
That's nonsense. There are stringent requirements to be approved in this system, and students are only enrolled as a result of the choices of parents.
Jan Crawford, CBS News, Washington.
In other national news, the U.S. has signed a deal to create the United States-Ukraine Reconstruction Investment Fund, granting the rights to rare earth minerals from Ukraine. The signing includes months of tense negotiations on security assurances and military support as the administration works to broker a peace deal. The agreement would have the U.S. contribute either direct financial input or military assistance, CBS News reports. And this comes after a private meeting between Zelensky and Trump when they both attended the Pope's funeral. And a major shakeup in the Trump administration. CBS News has learned National Security Advisor Mike Waltz and his deputy will leave their posts. The administration is also dealing with news about the economy.
Multiple sources tell CBS News National Security Advisor Mike Waltz and his deputy Alex Wong will be leaving their positions as soon as today. It comes weeks after revelations Waltz put together a Signal group chat about a strike in Yemen that mistakenly included a journalist. News of the shakeup comes as President Trump is set to take part in a National Day of Prayer event from the Rose Garden today as his administration defends his trade policies, even after government data showed the U.S. economy shrank in the first quarter of 2025.
Right now, countries from all over the world, because of President Trump's leadership, are desperate and dying to make trade deals with the United States.
Administration officials acknowledge the negative GDP report was driven by a surge in imports ahead of tariffs taking effect. Although yesterday, the president insisted it's his predecessor who's to blame.
That's Biden. That's not Trump, because we came in on January. This are quarterly numbers.
But President Trump is also urging patience with no formal trade deals yet announced. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent told Fox News he believes negotiations with China will be a multi-step process.
First, there will need to be a de-escalation on these very large tariffs. 145 and 125 are not sustainable on the Chinese side.
Uncertainty around the president's trade strategy has impacted consumer confidence, now at nearly a 5-year low. But Americans are still deeply divided.
How long is it going to take people's savings to recover or their quality of life?
There's always going to be fluctuations. You know, over the past 20 years, there's been a lot of volatility, but we're not worried about that.
The White House says it's focusing right now on Asian trading partners, meeting with a Japanese delegation today. Natalie Brandt, CBS News, the White House.
Meanwhile, later today, President Trump is set to deliver the commencement address at the University of Alabama.